Hey, how are we doing? Okay, so it's a little bit wet and windy today, but I just wanted to do this one just to talk a bit about anxiety, or fear if you like, as well as a little bit on depression, because as we know, it's huge amongst modern men. And I've previously talked about some of my own struggles with anxiety. And it wasn't until a good few years ago now, well, a few years back now, that I discovered a coach, an online coach, business coach, Paul Moore, if you want to check him out. And he talked about some of his own struggles with his bipolar. He'd been suicidal, he'd been sectioned, and he started talking about mindset. And some of the tools that he shared really helped me understand. Well, they kind of kick-started like a domino effect, but they helped me understand and start researching and learning more about where some of my own anxieties had come from, so I could work through them, because there's usually some kind of catalyst, and I had to wake up, hence the wake up warrior. And why I do what I do now. You know, it's not just fitness, it's the whole body and mindset together. But yeah, so when I was talking about these struggles, I made some mistakes, because I was talking about how anxiety was my thing, or my anxiety. And the language we use is a big deal. It's kind of the meaning we're attaching to things. So if you're sort of struggling and you're talking about my anxiety and my depression, then you're going to struggle. As Paul said, and it pisses off a lot of people, anxiety and depression don't even really exist. It's just a thought or a feeling. You can't catch it. It's not contagious. So if we can create these thoughts and feelings and feel this way, then we can remove them as well. And it comes down to the meaning we attach to things, as well as the language we use. Now, today I'm going to just give you an example of some anxiety, because I recently got back from abroad, a little bit different now, but obviously some long haul flights, and what I did, part of my own system now, what I use. But also another thing to consider, if you're just struggling in everyday life with anxiety and depression, then if you think of it, or at the meaning you attach to it, if you think of it as an alarm clock, that something in your life needs to change, something isn't working right now. And but getting back to the anxiety in the flights, I'm not over fond of flying these days anyway. Before, it never used to bother me, but I was chatting with a client who had to travel for business as well, and they weren't too over fond of it. But it's that thought again. We've talked about thinking without doing just leads to more anxiety. When you're doing the thing, it's never as bad as the thought of it. So a few days before, I always get a little bit edgy, but not so much these days. Not I've got this system, but it's not perfect. I still get a little bit anxious. And another thing to consider is that's normal. When you start thinking these thoughts and feelings are abnormal, that's when the problems arise. So it's normal, but things you can do, overthinking about it. So could be just something as simple as deep breathing. Just relax, just count your breaths. Being present. I'm sure you've heard that quote about if you're living in the past, you're depressed, and if you're living in the future, you're anxious. So if you can just breathe and be present, you're going to be a lot calmer, a lot more relaxed, and ultimately a bit happier. You're not going to be overthinking. And whilst I was, you can do that on the plane or before the thing. It doesn't even have to be a flight. As I say, it's just an example. But when I was on the plane, another thing we do is divert your attention. So I got my laptop out, I did some work, watched some movies, I got up, I moved around. As we know, movement is a great state shifter, non-destructive state shifter. So it's just something, and it works. It's some things you can apply and just try out. But what I would, just something to consider. Think about the language you're using, the meaning you attach to things. Look to stay present, breathe, divert your attention, movement, all these kind of things will help. And so that's pretty much it. That's all I've got for today. I'm going to get back to the wet and windy weather, although we've talked about that. There's no such thing as good or bad weather or good or bad days. It's the meaning that we attach to it. Anyway, until the next time, catch you later.